Welcome in, everyone. I'm your Vegas Nation host, Cassie Soto, here to announce the Raiders' 2023 schedule. It is finally here, what the fans have been waiting for since, of course, the season ended. So joining me to break it all down is sports columnist for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Sam Gordon. Sam, let's go ahead and give the people what they want to see. Let's pop up that schedule and take a look at the Raiders' 2023 schedule. As you can see here, the Raiders will start their season, Sam, on the road. Back-to-back road games, first at Denver, then they'll head on over to Buffalo. What do you make of the Raiders starting their season with back-to-back road games?
Yeah, Cassie, I think it's definitely a tough start to the season, especially looking at that week 2 game in Buffalo. I think the Broncos, look, they have Sean Payton now. It's you don't know necessarily what to expect, other than they're going to be better coached than they were a year ago. Mile High Stadium always, can be a tough place to play, although it is a place where the Raiders have had some recent success. But then turning the page right after that, going all the way from West Coast to East Coast to play in Buffalo, who figures to be a Super Bowl contending team once again. Got to try and split those 2 games, however you can do it if you're the Raiders, because then coming back week 3 with a home game against a Pittsburgh Steelers team that should be better in Kenny Pickett's second year. So starting with a bang, a couple big road games, and that will test the Raiders right away as soon as 2023 begins.
Right, you mentioned that game versus the Steelers. When the Raiders open up Allegiant Stadium, they will do so on Sunday night, a primetime game finally in Allegiant Stadium, Sam. There were no primetime games last season, if fans remember. The only one was the Patriots game that got flexed off of primetime because neither team was doing so hot at that point in the season, Sam. But now the Raiders to be able to be back on primetime to showcase Allegiant Stadium and Las Vegas, the fans have to be excited for that.
Yeah, certainly, Cassie. And when you take a look at who they're playing in week 3, too, right? Another one of the NFL's glamour brands, glamour franchises, the Pittsburgh Steelers. We, of course, remember they played a crucial game celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception in December. And these teams have played a few years in a row now. So there should be some familiarity there. And, of course, an exciting opportunity for Raiders fans to welcome the 2023 season at home with one of their biggest rivals, right? Historically, one of their biggest rivals. So there will be a lot of black in that stadium, right, Cassie? I don't know if it's going to be silver and black, if it's going to be black and yellow, probably a combination of both, but either way, a lot of black, one of the best rivalries in the NFL historically, opening up Allegiant Stadium this season.
Right, and then the following week, week 4, the Raiders will head to SoFi Stadium to take on the Chargers, which fans can always debate if that's actually just a Raiders road home game, or so they say, right, Sam? But then the week after that, the Raiders come back home for another primetime game where they will host the Green Bay Packers, one team that Davante Adams is very familiar with, Sam. You think he'll play host that week to some of his old teammates, or, he's going to give him the boot and say, we mean business now, boys?
Hey, all football, Cassie, that week, all football. They can exchange pleasantries and whatnot after the game like we so often see players do. But Monday Night Football, again, 2 of the league's glamour brands, the Raiders, the Green Bay Packers, a crucial game in the beginning of a 2-game homestand, right? Like you mentioned, that follows with the New England Patriots, a rematch of their unforgettable game in 2022. And once again, predecessor or mentor in Bill Belichick meets mentee in Josh McDaniels, teams that at that point in the season through 6 weeks might have a lot to play for in that particular game. So interesting, very interesting way that the Raiders start the season. And then when you look the rest of the way, Cass, like we're going to get to, doesn't seem like they have a week off. One big game after another, one marquee game after another. The Raiders, I think the opposing winning percentage was around 52%, one of the tougher schedules in the league, and it certainly bears out that way once we see how it lines up.
Right, we've got at Chicago, at Detroit, then they'll come back home to host the New York Giants, and then week 10, Sam, another primetime game here, the Raiders hosting the New York Jets and new quarterback Aaron Rodgers over there leading the Jets, another primetime game, as we say, Sam. Where better place to have Aaron Rodgers come to a primetime game but Las Vegas?
All right, and then, rekindle. I mean, there was at one point, right, Cassie, some interest between the Raiders and Aaron Rodgers. Who knows how legitimate it was, but there were some rumblings in the offseason whether or not he was going to come out this way. Of course, Davante Adams certainly let it be known after the Pro Bowl, right? Josh Jacobs as well, that they wanted Aaron Rodgers to be the quarterback of the Silver and Black. They instead have Jimmy Garoppolo, and Aaron Rodgers goes out east. Does he make the Jets a Super Bowl contender at week 10? We'll have a pretty big sample size to see how good the Jets are. I have a feeling they're going to be a lot better in 2023 than they were in 2022. Now, that 12, or the quarterback formerly known as number 12, changing numbers, going back to the old college number in New York. Should be a fun matchup for Devontae Adams and the Raiders nonetheless.
All right, then we've got week 11 at Miami. Then you jump ahead to week 12 versus the Chiefs. And this is an interesting stretch here, Sam, because the Raiders get to be at home for a while here, which I know will be very important at this time in the season, right? So you've got the Chiefs in week 12. Then they have their bye week, which in my recent search history here, I was trying to look it up to get the exact last year, but this might be the latest bye week the Raiders have had in recent memory. So good or a bad thing, Sam, that the Raiders are having their bye week all the way in week 13.
I think that, I mean, it just kind of depends where they're at, right, Cassie? I think bye weeks early in the season always can, tend to help teams reset. But when you take a look at where this comes, right, in week 13, given the stretch of games that they're playing, you mentioned it, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Chargers. What do those four teams all have in common? They all made the playoffs last season. So that stretch, again, you can't necessarily carry it over 2022 to 2023. But when you take a look where we're at right now in May, when the schedule's just been announced, that stretch of games particularly daunting. So it would seem like the bye week is coming at a good time, gives the opportunity for the Raiders to reset wherever they're at in the season, whether it be in the thick of a playoff race, whether it be, hey, let's see how we play these last 5 games. It gives their brass an opportunity to kind of figure things out, where to go from there. And again, in the midst of a very, very daunting stretch.
Yeah, and adding to that schedule, the players having to explain to their kids that they won't be home on Christmas Day, Sam. The Raiders will be on the road to play the Chiefs in Kansas City on Christmas Day. It's not the NBA's day anymore, I guess, Sam. The NFL is creeping on in here on using Christmas Day as one of their platforms.
No, it certainly is. And then going back, right, to that, what we just talked about, Cassie, 4 straight games against playoff teams, make that a 5th, because you're seeing the Chiefs twice. They bookend a stretch there that includes the bye week. So again, the Raiders, no shortage of showcase games when you talk about the 5 primetime games that they have, and then you talk about this particular game. So the 6-11 did not, the 6-11 record rather did not hurt them too much in that regard. The Raiders will be all over national TV, all over in standalone games, primetime games. A great opportunity for Raiders fans that can't necessarily travel out to games or can't get to see them showcased standalone several times this season.
Well, I won't ask for your predictions here, Sam. Obviously, we've seen the schedule, and fans can take it for what it is, right? They'll see these major primetime games, these road stretches. But just your overall feelings of this schedule, Sam. You mentioned the 6-11 record last year. Now under their head coach, Josh McDaniels, in his second year here with the Silver and Black, how do you see the Raiders faring this year for 2023?
Yeah, Cassie, it's a great question. I think somewhere around 500, 9-8, 8-9, I think would have to be considered a success. Of course, we don't. There's still so many variables with how new that defense is going to look and how that offense looks now that it's been reimagined a little bit more in Josh McDaniels' image, with Jimmy Garoppolo behind center, Jacoby Myers, formerly of the New England Patriots, as well, in a second year to kind of install the system with some of the returners. So with that being said, my overall kind of impressions are, look, 3 of the first 4 on the road, and then that stretch at the end of the season where 5 straight games against playoff teams. It's not an easy schedule by any means, but that's the reality, I think, for teams across the NFL. Unless you play the last place schedule or in one of the worst divisions in the NFL, like the NFC South, you are likely going to get a mix of really challenging games, road games, and untimely games. It's all about how this team comes together, how they're able to manage the ebbs and flows. But for fans, again, 5 primetime games, another showcase game on Christmas. Their favorite team is going to be all over national TV this season, and the Raiders are going to have, if they do have a great season, you're going to have plenty of opportunity to build that buzz nationally as well as locally in 2023.
Well, there you have it, the Raiders 2023 schedule. He is Sam Gordon. I'm Cassie Soto. Thank you so much for tuning in with us here. For more on the Raiders schedule, head on over to vegasnation.com.